Hello everyone. In this 12th episode of the Learn English with Me series, I will show you a collection of short stories, as you will benefit us a lot by hearing them.
The first story is about the old man in the village.
It is said that an old man lived in a far village, and he was the saddest person on earth, so that all the villagers got tired of him because he was always frustrated, and he did not stop grumbling and complaining, and not a day went by without seeing him in a bad mood. The older he got, the worse and more negative his speech became. The villagers used to avoid him as much as possible, as his misfortune became contagious. It is impossible for anyone to keep his happiness close to him. He was spreading feelings of sadness and misery to everyone around him. However, one day, when the old man reached the age of 80 years, something strange happened, and a strange rumor began to spread. The old man is happy today. He doesn't complain about anything. A smile is on his face. Rather, his face has brightened and changed. The villagers gathered at the old man's house, and one of them asked him, "What happened to you?" Here the old man answered, "Nothing matters. I spent 80 years of my life chasing happiness in vain. Then I decided to live without it, and just enjoy my life. That's why I'm happy now."
The lesson learned from this short story: don't chase happiness. Instead, enjoy your life.
The second story is The Wise Man.
It is said that there was a wise man who came to him from everywhere to consult him, but every time they talked to him about the same problems and hardships they faced, until he got tired of them. And one day, the wise man gathered them and told them a funny joke, so everyone burst out laughing. After a few minutes, he told them the same joke again, and a few of them smiled. Then he soon cut the joke a third time, and no one laughed. Then the wise man smiled and said, "You can't laugh at the same joke more than once, so why do you keep complaining and crying about the same problems every time?"
The lesson learned from this story: worrying will not solve your problems. It is a waste of time and energy.
The third story is The Foolish Donkey.
A salt seller had a donkey that he used to carry sacks of salt to the market every day. And one day the seller and the donkey had to cross a small river in order to reach the market. But the donkey suddenly stumbled and fell into the water, so the salt melted and the bags became light, which made the donkey very happy. From that day on, the donkey started repeating the same trick every day, and the seller discovered the donkey's trick, so he decided to teach him a lesson. The next day, he filled the bags with cotton and put them on the donkey's back. This time too, the donkey did the same trick and fell into the water. But unlike the previous times, the weight of the cotton increased exponentially, and the donkey had a hard time getting out of the water. Then he learned the lesson, and the seller rejoiced at that.
The lesson learned from this short story: you won't deliver the jar every time, and luck may not always be on your side.
The fourth story is A True Friend.
The story revolves around two friends who were walking in the middle of the desert. At some point in their journey, they quarreled so much that they slapped the other in the face. The one who was beaten felt great pain and sorrow, but without saying a word, he wrote in the sand, "Today my best friend slapped me in the face." Then they continued walking until they reached a beautiful oasis, so they decided to take a bath in the lake of the oasis. But the young man who had been slapped earlier got stuck in a quagmire of mud and started drowning. So his friend rushed to him and saved him. At that time, the young man who almost drowned on a large rock wrote the following sentence: "Today my best friend saved my life." Here, the friend who slapped him and saved him asked him, "After I hurt you, you wrote in the sand, and now you're writing in stone. So why?" The young man replied, "When someone hurts us, we should write it in the sand so that the winds of forgetfulness can erase it. But when someone does us a favor, we must engrave it in stone so that we will never forget it and no wind will ever erase it."
The lesson learned from this short story: be tolerant, and don't forget those who did you a favor. Do not value the things you have, but appreciate the people around you.
The fifth story is The Four Smart Students.
There were 4 university students who spent their night in celebration and fun and did not prepare for their exam, which was scheduled for the next day. And in the morning, the 4 of them agreed on a clever plan. They smeared themselves with mud and went straight to the dean of their college, telling him that they had gone to a wedding yesterday, and on their way back one of their car's tires exploded, and as a result they had to push the car all the way. For this reason, they are not in a suitable position. The dean thought for a few minutes, then told them that he would postpone their exam for 3 days. The 4 students thanked him and promised him good preparation for the test. On the scheduled date for the exam, they came to the exam room, and the dean told them that, due to this special circumstance, each student would be placed in a separate room. And none of them refused, for they were well prepared. The exam consisted of only 2 questions. First question: what is your name? 1 mark. Question 2: which car's tires exploded on the day of the wedding? 99 marks.
The lesson learned from the story: if lying saves, then honesty saves. Take responsibility for your actions and words. Otherwise, you will learn a hard lesson.
The 6th story is potato, egg, or coffee.
One day, a little girl complained to her father about the hardships of life. She told him that she lives a miserable life and does not know how to overcome all the difficulties she faces. As soon as she overcomes a problem, life surprises her with a bigger and tougher problem. Her father was such a good cook, he didn't say a word. Instead, he asked her to accompany him to the kitchen. There he brought 3 vessels, which he filled with water and set on the fire. Once it started to boil, he put potatoes in the first pot, eggs in the second pot, and a handful of coffee beans in the third pot, and he let it boil without saying anything. The little girl got bored and her patience was running out. She was wondering what her father was doing. 20 minutes later, the kind father put out the fire. He took out the potatoes, eggs, and coffee and put each one in a transparent glass bowl. Then he turned to his daughter and said, "What do you see? Potatoes, eggs, and coffee." She answered, surprised. "Take a closer look." The father said, "Touch the potatoes." And so did the little girl, and she noticed that she had become soft. Then he asked her to break the egg, and she noticed that it had become harder. Finally, he asked her to sip the coffee, and she noticed that it was delicious and drew a slight smile on her face. "Father, what does all this mean?" the little girl asked in astonishment. Here is the father's explanation. Potatoes, eggs, and coffee all faced the same conditions: hot boiling water, but each showed a different reaction. The potato, which seemed hard and strong, became soft and weak. The egg, with a fragile shell, turned the liquid into solid. As for the coffee, its reaction was unique. It changed the color and flavor of the water and created something entirely new. The father paused, then continued. "What about you? When you are faced with difficult life circumstances, how do you respond to them? Do you react like potatoes, like eggs, or like coffee?"
Lesson learned: many things happen in life around us, and we face many difficulties and painful events, but none of them matter. What really matters is how we choose to respond to these hardships. Will it break us and make us weak as potatoes, or does it turn us into people who are hard on the inside?
The 7th story is the fox and the grapes.
One day, a fox was walking in the woods, and suddenly, he saw a bunch of grapes hanging from a high branch. "This is what I needed to quench my thirst," said the fox to himself, pleased. He took a few steps back, then jumped, trying to pick up the cluster, but failed. He tried a second and a third time, and kept trying, to no avail. Finally, after losing hope, he walked away from the tree, arrogantly saying, "They're sour anyway. I don't want them anymore."
Lesson learned: through this short story, we discover that it is very easy to criticize what you cannot reach. Now we have finished the episode today. I hope you have benefited. Goodbye. I will see you in the next episode. I wish you a beautiful day. Do not forget to subscribe and follow me, so that you can learn English fluently and share your opinions in the comments.
Goodbye. I enjoyed telling you stories. I hope you also enjoyed it.
I went to eat in the kitchen because I was hungry. Who is the smart one who will translate this sentence into Arabic for us? We are waiting for you in the comments.